To the story now, the South African Medical Association has accepted an apology from its chair, Angelique Coetzee. It relates to racist remarks during an interview where she slammed medical schools' admission processes. For more on this, we're joined by Dr. Mvuyisi Mzukwa, who is on SAMA's board of directors. Mr. Mvuyisi, thank you very much for your time this morning. You know, we've seen that statement that Dr. Coetzee has apologized for what you say was her opinion around the criteria relied upon when admitting medical students. But the big question now still is, how could a chairperson of such a reputable body misinterpret the process, as you say?
Well, we thank you so much and good morning to you and to your viewers. Well, we were all taken aback by the statement that was made or utterances that were made by our chairperson. Hence, we took a bold decision of having an engagement with her and making sure that she understands exactly what is the hate that is out there to communities, especially, African doctors or black doctors, if I may put it so. So we believe, obviously, that, having grown in a country with a divided past, some people may still have, other opinions about other races. So we needed to correct that, especially with the South African Medical Association, because we believe that we represent all doctors, all races, all, everyone in South Africa who is a doctor without, discrimination. And we could not accept, that those utterances as an association and also as an affiliate of the World Medical Association.
All right. Have you immediately engaged her on the utterances, or it was a matter of perhaps her just being requested to apologize?
Nope. There was a special board meeting that was called on Friday, where there were deliberations where she was made to clarify, her opinion to the board of directors. And it is in that board meeting where she made an apology, and we thought it was not enough. It needed to go out in the public so that people who are hurt by her utterances can find some form of closure around this matter. We know that apology is not enough. More needs to be done in terms of, making sure that people who are coming into the board of directors of SAMA, they know that they represent a broad church.
And I mean, when you go onto a radio program as the chair of SAMA, one would assume you wouldn't be expressing your opinions because you weren't invited in your personal capacity. So one would assume that a whole chair is one that would then initiate the new board members to say, this is how you conduct yourself if invited ever to speak publicly on SAMA matters. But I'm also concerned that some of what she said possibly makes sense for some parents whose children were denied access to some universities. There clearly could be a criteria beyond academic merit, perhaps based on the reality of scarce resources. I mean, there are limited spaces at these medical schools, and at times, perhaps, as we've heard even in that particular interview, there could be consideration around socioeconomic factors. Don't you think beyond the apology, though, this is an opportunity to actually interrogate this further and really speak to the institutions of higher learning to find out about the criteria and make sure that the public itself is actually brought into the fold, or at least taken along to understand the exact criteria if indeed it's beyond just merit?
Like you said, ma'am, honestly, the medical schools don't just look at the academic performance. Their approach is also not uniform across the country. Some medical schools, they will look at your academic performance, but also there's a national benchmarking tests that you write. But on top of that, there's non-academic considerations like leadership, community engagement, and all these things, that are taken into consideration. But also they look at the socio-economic background, the level of school that you are in, and all these are taken into consideration, because you must remember, some of the people are coming from the rural areas You know, we need people who are going to be going back to their communities, because if you only educate people who are based in the urban areas, simply because, you know, you only consider those academic measures, then you miss a point by sidelining those that are coming from the rural areas. So it's important that, because we all know now that people don't want to go to the rural areas, but at least if you educate a rural child, there is a possibility that that child will go back and serve her community or his community.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the missed opportunity lies, because there could be those parents of privileged children who actually are also hard-working children, though academically they would qualify to go to medical school, but because of the limited resources, for instance at UCT, then you find there's preference for the child from a rural background, you know, so as to not alienate this grouping in society. Perhaps there needs to be more done by SAMA to actually sensitize or educate parents that there is a criteria and the reasons behind this is this and this, just as you say, because they're very legitimate. Not many doctors want to go to the rural areas. But when a child is just, according to them, arbitrarily denied access to the school, then they're thinking there's some level there's another process that they don't understand, but they could have quickly been told, or even in grade 11 already, we're aware as parents of privileged children that they might need to actually display maybe even leadership skills beyond other things, because the social factors do matter. They do matter. Do you think more needs to be done there?
Yes, you're quite correct, Mfundo. We do need to ask the South African medical deans in the medical schools to go out there and educate communities on the admission criteria. There is nothing wrong with the admission criteria that they have now. It's just that it is not known to the public. You know, at the same time, you know, they have a responsibility to deal with transformation. They have a responsibility to accommodate redress policies. You know, like you said, there are people who are coming from disadvantaged background who have not been given an opportunity in the past. So we do need to engage widely in the community so that people, when they apply, they know the criteria exactly, so that you don't run around with distinctions and think that that's the only criteria that is going to be used by a particular medical school.